This is Birmingham, and welcome to Spaghetti Junction just behind me, the heart of Britain's motorway system. Bit busier than usual at the moment with all the traffic going for the National Exhibition Centre. It's motor show time again. There are many different ways of getting here. Air, rail, by road, whatever you do, join us for the next 40 minutes and a look at the British International Motor Show 1986. Well, good afternoon and thank you for joining us here inside the National Exhibition Centre. The motor show is laid out over 7 capacious halls through which some 750,000 people will trot their merry way in the next week, trying to get a glimpse of some of their favourite cars and also to look at some of the new product that is on show. It really is an enormous exhibition here, and we've been taking our cameras around, taking a look at the stars of the show. The cars are the big stars in the next 40 minutes. Jenny Murray is with one of the biggest stars at the moment.
Well, the new Jaguar XJ6 must be one of the worst guarded secrets in the motor industry. It's been 6 years in development, but now it's finally appeared and it's created a lot of interest at the motor show. Indeed, you could say it's just about the star of the show. This is the Sovereign, which is the top of the range, and as you can see, in basic shape and design, it's really not that different from the old-style Jaguar, although it's much bigger, and Jaguars say it's a lot better. They also say that they've tried to keep up their policy of keeping prices down and producing good executive cars cheaply. And the basic XJ6 you can get for about £16,000, and that is dramatically lower than the cars that are being produced by their main competitors. Now, the man who's been responsible for really turning Jaguar around is Sir John Egan. 6 years ago, they were losing £46 million a year, and now they're turning in a very healthy profit. So, John, first of all, the car. Why does this Jaguar look so much like its predecessor?
Well, it was designed to be so much like its predecessor. The previous car was judged by many to be the most beautiful car in the world. We have a policy of being evolutionary in our designs, and we've evolved the old style into this new beauty.
Who's it appealing to, though? Is it the traditionalists in America, because they like the traditional shapes?
Well, it's appealing to anybody who's got £25,000 or $39,000 for the car. And I don't mean to be facetious about that. Really, we don't have any absolute target market in mind. We've made what we regard as the best car in the world for people who can afford to buy any car in the world.
Now, you have made a remarkable turnaround in this company. You've got quite a reputation yourself. What's it like to work for you?
For me? Oh, I imagine it must be a very invigorating thing, because I want to see the very best. And I want people to perform of their best. I want people to have an environment where they can be creative and where they can give of their best. So
you're very tough on them, though, aren't you? I mean, you don't pay them if they make a mess of things, and you don't pay your suppliers if they don't get things right.
Well, I think that life isn't easy. I think if you felt as though it didn't matter whether you did a good job or a bad one and you get paid the same, some people would be tempted to do a bad job.
Now, you've got obviously a lot of competition from BMW and their new engine that they've put into their 7 Series, and indeed from Mercedes. Are you confident that this car will get a share of the market?
Oh, I'm confident that we can continue to grow at the pace that we've designed, 10 to 15% every year. This car's got an awful lot of growing it can do for us.
What about the V12 engine? Are you planning putting that into this car?
Yes, eventually the V12 will come into this car, but in the meantime we'll put the V12 into the old car.
At BMW, they've launched a car you can't buy yet. It's the 750 Injection, and that's a car that will be available for sale to the public at the end of 1987. Of course, the interest in it is the fantastic V12 engine. They tell me that's going to be the world's first maintenance-free unit. Apart from changing the spark plugs, the filter and the oil, it'll require no more attention for the whole of its design life. Well, the car you can buy is the 735i, and I've been on the roads in Germany trying it out. BMW don't often announce new models. In fact, the company likes to get its money's worth out of each model range by keeping them going between 8 and 10 years before they replace them. So the launch of an all-new 7 Series model is big news for the Bavarian company. The car has a new body shell retaining the BMW front end and identity, but with a rather Mercedes-like passenger compartment and rear end. It's lower and wider than the old 7 Series. The company says, in fact, the car's wider than all the competition. The aerodynamics are carefully engineered so that downforce on the car at speed is increased substantially over the old model, and the car's much more stable in crosswinds. One of the most impressive things about the BMW is something the company hasn't built in, and that's noise. The noise levels inside the car are very low. They've paid an awful lot of attention to body insulation, to the way that the engine, the gearbox and the final drive are mounted in the body and chassis unit. And the result is there's very little road noise, there's very little wind noise. In fact, it can be almost eerily quiet in here at times. The loudest sound is really the air conditioning fan. The luxury end of the executive market is becoming distinctly crowded with some excellent new models. At the moment, it's a small segment of the total car market. And why are manufacturers fighting so hard to get their models to the top of the tree? The answer is that they make a lot of money out of these cars. So why should we be concerned about expensive, elitist machines like these? Well, because in their pursuit of this small slice of the market, manufacturers tend to build in technological improvements and advances to give themselves a selling edge. And inevitably, these innovations will make their way down to ordinary production cars, making them safer and more convenient for all of us.
The Japanese car that's been officially approved by Margaret Thatcher. You may remember she opened the factory at Washington in Tyne and Wear, where these Nissan Bluebirds are being assembled. The reason why Nissan are assembling them here, you may not know, it's that the Japanese car manufacturers are only allowed to bring into this country 11% of the total market of cars. Nissan get round it by bringing in the bits, screwing them together in Washington, and then selling it as a British assembled car. 40% of this Bluebird, they say, is assembled in Britain. And to prove the point, there's a sticker on the back window, but more importantly, under the bonnet, there's a plate at the back here which says Nissan Motor Manufacturing UK Limited. Now, it's a bit tatty under the bonnet, I have to say. I like underbonnets that are clean because then they don't pick up a lot of dirt. This has got an awful lot of bits and pieces and bolts and screws and rivets and pipes all hanging off it, which in about 6 months of motoring will get very scruffy and very dirty. Having said that, they're good value for money, the cars. £7,000 to £10,000 for this. This is the top of the range £10,000 2-litre model. But I do wish motor manufacturers would realise that we have thugs in this country who vandalise shiny new cars. I would like to see them take it into account when they develop something like this, which to my mind is completely unnecessary. It's a gadget that you don't need. You can wipe your headlamps with a bit of cloth, and that is so easy to rip off. You can just get hold of it and pull it off. And no doubt it'll cost an arm and a leg to replace.
Well, the competition from the Japanese is pretty formidable, and Austin Rover, the only remaining major British manufacturer, have really had to try and get their act together. So for this motor show, for the first time in 10 years, they've managed to produce a full range of cars. They call it their family of cars, and they really need it, because at the moment they only have 16% of the British market, and that's falling all the time. Well, the baby of the family, although I suppose in many ways you ought to describe it as the grandfather of the family, is of course the Mini. It's virtually unchanged since it was first launched in 1959. Now, for some reason, the Mini just goes on and on and on, I suppose because it's so popular with you. They still manage to sell 20,000 of these cars in this country every year. Now, the next car in the range, or the family, is the family car, the Maestro. Now, they say that it sells well because it's the only small family car available that has 4 doors fitted as standard, with, of course, a 5th door in the back, in the hatchback. In the company car range, the Montego is their popular seller, And they've had very good news at the motor show this morning. They've sold 1.6 million pounds worth of Montegos, that's 200 cars. Now this week is a big week for the Metro. The millionth Metro will come off the production line on Tuesday. And Austin Rover have donated the millionth Metro to the BBC's Children in Need appeal. So they'll be giving that car to Terry Wogan on Tuesday. Well, travelling a little further up the market, we come to the Rover 200 series, and these cars sell between £6,000 and £9,000. The car came out about 2 years ago, and there's been a general update and smartening for this year's motor show. But only one really major change has been made. It seems that customers complained about the design of the boot, so Austin Rover have changed it. What customers didn't like was that it was very high, so it's very difficult to get suitcases or shopping in and out. All they've done is to cut it out, and they've made that process much easier. But the great white hope for the Austin Rover Group is the new car, the Rover Sterling. That's in the 800 series. Now, this car was launched about 2 months ago, and it's the first car that they've made in total cooperation with their sister company, Honda. It was well received at the launch as a powerful, high-performance, attractive car, but it was heavily criticised as well because it's very expensive. This car will cost you £19,000. So for the motor show, Austin Rover have brought out a much cheaper version of the Sterling 800. It's called the 820e. It comes in just under £11,000, and it looks virtually the same as the Sterling. It's the same shape and the same size, but the real difference is in the engine. The Sterling has the Honda engine, this one has a British engine, and it's a simplified version of the fuel injection system. It means you do lose some performance and power, but you gain on economy. Well, the cars in the 800 series are being marketed aggressively by the new management team under the chairmanship of the Canadian Graham Day. The irony of the whole thing is that the main competition for the cars at the top of the range come from their sister company, Honda. The Legend is Honda's new flagship, the top-of-the-range model, and it marks the entry for the Japanese company into a new sector of the market. Up to now, Honda have made a range of saloons and coupes in the smaller end of the market. This is the first time they've made and faced the challenge of selling a big executive class of car. It's a joint venture, of course, between Honda and Rover. The companies developed a common body shell, and Honda built the engine for both the Legend and the Sterling. The Legend is built on the Rover production line at Cowley, then taken off to Honda's vast new centre in Swindon for quality control checking before being released for sale. Legend and Sterling are sold in competition with each other in the UK, in Europe and in America. And here in the UK, the news at the show is the aggressive pricing policy Honda have adopted. They'll sell the Legend with all the extras for almost £2,000 less than a Sterling. Of course, at the heart of the new cars is the V6 2.5-litre engine. It's drawn heavily on the racing experience the company gained in developing their winning Formula One engine.
Nigel, how do you manage to find the time to come back home to Birmingham with all this racing going on and the battle for the World Championship?
Yeah, it's extraordinary really, isn't it? But I'd always prefer to come home rather than stay out for long periods of time. And just to come home for 3 days, see the children and the family is more important to me than having sort of vacation or five days free.
Did you get much of a chance to look around the exhibition at the new cars?
Well, yes, I did, because to find this hall this morning, I went through every other one, I think.
As most people do here. You need satellite navigation to find your way around, I think.
Well, the amazing thing is, you make the mistake of asking the opposition where the Honda stand is, and they'll tell you another hall.
Now, can we just talk about this World Championship? The pressures that I would understand that you're going through at the moment must be horrendous.
Yeah, they are quite enormous, but I mean, pressure is what you make it, really, and the pressure's there only because everybody's willing you to do it, and it's just a question of keeping one's head down and getting on with the job.
Australia coming up in, what, a couple of weeks' time?
Yes, literally 10 days' time now, and but we're still in front. We've still got to have it taken away from us. They've got to finish and they've got to win to beat me. And in motor racing, that's something, because I mean, reliability plays a very large part, and I wouldn't like to go into the last race knowing that if I didn't win and I didn't finish, then I've got no chance. Whereas I have got a chance even if I don't finish. So
it has been suggested that the World Championship was waved above you by Williams to force you to sign for them again next year. Was that the case?
I think that's totally untrue. I think the thing was that I was in a position whereby I was being courted by several teams, and nobody rushes into a decision lightly, and I wanted to weigh up various things, and there were certain things with driving for the Williams and alongside Nelson Piquet that I needed to discuss, and I'm very pleased that Williams and I are together for the next 2 years, and Honda, of course.
Well, all your hard work this year has given birth to a new car for Honda, the Legend, which has been revealed here at the show. We have an example of the engine right here behind us. Now, this is a direct derivative, the engine they're using for the Legend, from your Formula One racing, isn't it?
Yes, that's correct, Mike, and what's amazing is the power that it has also with the economy. It's very, very quick, very smooth, and I have one actually in my home at the Isle of Man, and I've driven, and I shouldn't say this, but it surprised me. It's a very, very nice car indeed.
So despite the fact that the cars we see you racing on the track seem to get further and further away from the cars in the street, there is still this feedback of technology that's
absolutely. Well, the power versus the economy, you know, because that's what we're fighting for all the time, is as much power as possible with the best fuel efficiency. And of course this relates to the car and the people who own them, because then it's a lot less expensive running around the country.
I don't know how you can keep your mind on this interview with the thought of Australia coming up, but thank you so much for joining us. I think we have a toast for you, Nigel, because I think the whole of Birmingham and most of Britain would like to just wish you all the best. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers, Mike.
Here's to it. Plastic glasses.
This is the BBC.
So from people who do 200 miles an hour for a living, we've come right down the speed range with a bump, because here we are in Hall 8, the bus hall. Now this year the bus hall is particularly interesting because the government's going to relax the regulations governing bus travel in towns and cities all over the country. In the past, the municipal authorities had a monopoly on bus travel, but under the new regulations, providing somebody meets the new criteria on safety and regulations, anybody can set up as a bus operator. So a lot of those chaps are here in this hall looking round at the new vehicles and trying to decide what sort of bus will suit their particular sort of travel. Of course, some of the exhibits are a lot more interesting than others. Just look at this. This is the original depressing bus. They call it a kneeling feature. It's an idea that Scania have come up with to make the bus fit people rather than making people fit the bus. It's a very simple idea, and I don't know why it hasn't been a feature of London's buses over many years. You know what it's like on a wet Saturday night? You come out of the pub and the bus step seems an awful long way above the pavement. That's especially true if you're old and frail and you're carrying heavy luggage. The bus comes up to the curb and the driver makes it kneel for you. It's ever so much easier to get on the bus. You clamber on, you pay your fare, he presses a button, and off he goes again. Hold very tight, please. Ding, ding.
Beneath all the glitz and glamour here at the NEC, it's good to know that there is some research going on into making safer cars for us to drive. This is on the Audi stand, and we're looking at the interior, or the workings, of the Audi 80. We have here the Procon 10 safety system, and with me is Murray Mackay, who's the head of the Accident Research Unit at Birmingham University. Can you just explain to us what this actually does? Because it just looks like a load of wire to me.
Well, what it does is, first of all, takes the steering wheel away from the driver. One of the problems with conventional cars is that belted drivers get injuries from the steering wheel. If you have a crash in this car, the engine moves backwards and it pulls up on a cable which is fixed at this end and runs around the back of the engine, round another pulley, and pulls down here and actually draws the steering wheel away from the driver as the engine goes back.
It does seem a bit crude.
Well, it works very effectively in a whole range of different crash tests, and it's fail-safe in the sense that if you have a crash, for example, that doesn't move the engine, then you still have the conventional energy-absorbing steering column that a normal car has.
And there's another cable which runs off and around and up here to the seat belt inertia reel, and that does what?
Well, again, when the engine moves backwards, it tightens up on two cables, one for each sitting position, and actually winds the belt up inside the retractor. So it takes out the slack, it takes out the looseness that there would be with clothing, and actually loads the belt a little bit. And this reduces the amount of forward movement that the occupants have.
Now, going with a general view across the whole of the motor industry, I mean, I'm looking around here and I'm seeing manufacturers spending £250,000 just on building their stand to put their cars on. Are they spending enough money on the serious side of it, not the glitz and the glamour, but the development of safer cars?
Well, from my perspective, I don't think so. I mean, there is an enormous amount still to be gained from improved crash protection, not just for the occupants, but doing things for the pedestrians and other road users. But having said that, I think there is a lot of interesting technology coming along. Cars are very much more finely engineered now and not controlled by stylists as much as they used to be 5 years ago.
But it has got better, hasn't it? I mean, a car, if you had an accident and rolled a car over today, it'd be a much safer car than it was 10 years ago.
Absolutely. I mean, body structures are much more designed for better crash performance. The glass is being used as a structural material. The whole packaging and the protection of occupants is a lot better than it used to be. Fuel systems are better. So that there are real improvements. And what's interesting also is that at long last, the outside of the car is being looked at. The problems of protecting pedestrians. We have equal numbers, more or less, of pedestrians killed and car occupants killed now in Britain. And to actually engineer the outside of the car with soft structures, low bumpers, this sort of thing, has got a big potential. And I think that's an area where there'll be more to come.
Murray, thank you very much indeed.
Well, even at the really she end of the market, safety has been a very important consideration this year. RollsRoyce have fitted anti-lock brakes to all their cars. They've also fitted fuel injection engines as standard to try and improve the performance. Now, this car is called a Silver Spur. It would take 16 weeks to make because virtually every part is individually handcrafted. All the seats inside are covered in leather, and the amount of leather that they need comes from the hide of 11 animals. If you were to use that leather to make shoes, you could make 450 pairs of women's shoes. Now, this car would cost you £80,000, and that, can you believe, is at the bottom end of the Rolls-Royce market. Now, the Queen's got a Rolls-Royce. Her car would have cost her something like £195,000, and the kind of car that's made for a head of state would take 2 years to build. So apart from the Queen, who else drives a Rolls-Royce? Let me introduce you to one owner, Faith Brown.
Hi, Jen.
Faith, when did you get your Rolls-Royce?
Oh, quite a long time ago now. It's 8 years. She's 8 years old.
Why did you buy it?
Well, not so much for the prestigious part. It was because I felt secure. All the mileage we do an awful lot of mileage. And I thought, well, I wanted something that I would feel safe in. And with Danielle being in it also.
What did you drive before you had a Rolls-Royce?
A Granada before that. And then we sort of climbed up, did a slow climb, and then we had an XJ. So it's great.
And you've got another little car as well, haven't you?
Got a little baby one, yes.
Which Danielle calls, we just had it renovated, the little Morris Traveller, and it's been done up. And it's like having a baby, because they're both maroon. And Danielle says Rolly, she calls the Rolls Rolly. And she says, oh, Mummy, Rolly's had a little baby. That's the Morris.
So what are the disadvantages of having a Rolls-Royce? Are there any?
Yeah, there is one disadvantage. The first week I got it, there was somebody had put a 50p coin right across the boot of the car. And when I was in Bournemouth this season, somebody had took the lady off. They'd sawn the lady off the front of the car. Can I have the lady back, please? I need it.
Well, Faith, apart from you, who else would you say would own a Rolls-Royce?
Well, you've always got Maggie, you know. Yes, I have one. And, you know, Dennis loves the Rolls-Royce. And when we can, we like to go for picnics. Love to go for picnics. You know, when I first met Dennis, you know, I knew he was one of the bulldog breed. I could tell that just by the way he licked his plate when he'd finished his meal, you know. Hello, darlings, it's Angie. Hey, I've just been looking at the car. Dan would love this. He really would, you know what I mean, darling? It's great for his golf cups. It really is. And they've got a special compartment for his balls. They're really lovely. It really is fabulous. What do you think about that, Ethel?
Oh, it's lovely. Oh, it's nice for my little Willie. Oh, what do you think about that, Lou? Oh, yes, it's lovely. Michelle, she'd love this, you know, Michelle, with the little one, you know. Oh, yes. What do you think about that, Pauline? It's really nice. I think it's really lovely. You know, the wind going through your hair. It's really nice. This cabriolet, isn't it lovely? I do love it. What do you think about it, Hilda? Oh, hey, it's lovely, this. Ah, it's nice, this, Chuck. Hey, what would Mike Baldwin say if I came up with this in Coronation Street? He'd say, oh, how much is this, Chuck? Oh, 10,000. Hey, you're joking, aren't you? Oh, I'd have to sing for my supper. Ah, she loves you.
Looking around this exhibition, I've discovered an awful lot of different coloured metal boxes that look like all the other different coloured metal boxes with different badges on. To find something individual and unique is quite hard. In this corner, I have found a prize-winning, unique design. Unorthodox it may look, designed by some teenagers from a school in Huddersfield in Yorkshire. Anthony Billington is from the school, it's Shelley High School, and it won the BP Build-A-Car competition. Anthony, how long did it take you to make this?
The chassis has been built originally for 3 years, and then it took us a year to put the bodywork on top of that.
The bodywork is all sheet aluminium.
Yeah, it's sheet aluminium on top of a steel space frame.
And the engine is from what?
It's from a Mini Cooper, which we've modified and sprighted up a bit. It's got Weber carbs on it and racing cams.
So what sort of speed will that do?
Yeah, it'll do speeds of over 100 miles an hour.
Wow. So that's 100 mile an hour for how much money?
For about £2,500, including parts donated to us by industry.
Watch out, Sir John Egan. They're on the way from Shelley High School. Congratulations, well done.
Thank you.
And take a look at the runners-up here, because this one I'm particularly impressed with. Another one from Yorkshire. It's from the Silcote School in Wakefield, and it's a completely recycled car. Everything on it is second-hand, or probably sixth-hand, if the truth was known. And what they couldn't get, they made out of old stuff. This dashboard is made out of an old oak wardrobe they found on a rubbish heap. Love that. And over here, the third place car is done by the girls from St. Teresa's School at Lewisham in South London. And what I really like about this car is the construction of the roof. It's a three-seater, and there's a little canopy going over the top, which is formed out of old gas pipe. And to bend the gas pipe, they took it out onto the school tennis courts and formed it round the support posts of the tennis nets. Now you try getting a robot to do that. In this corner of the NEC, another success story for the British motor industry. Lotus cars. Now, we know all about their success on the racetracks, those legendary successes of years gone by. We know all about their snazzy sports cars that they've been producing. But did you know that they are now doing research work on behalf of other major motor manufacturers around the world? For instance, this sort of research work. Now, this car is one of Lotus's own ones. This is made of a composite material. The body shell on this has a lifetime guarantee against corrosion, mainly because there's no metal in it. What it's got in it is this, foam. There's the foam in the middle, and there's the composite material around the outside. It's like a glass fibre, carbon fibre construction around there, which gives it immense strength. It also means that you can manufacture it easily and more cheaply than, say, metal. Here's something that Lotus have been working on with their engineering department for Chevrolet. This is going to be the front end of a new Chevrolet. Beautifully smooth, looks like it could actually be pressed steel, but if I whip it round, you'll see that it's all made in one piece, all done in one mould, and it's moulded like a bit of plastic. Only it's not plastic, it's this composite material. Down here is the foam rubber filling. Around that is the sandwich, the outer part of the sandwich, the composite material, and the only metal in it are the steel inserts at the top, which will be used to take mounting bolts and so on. They're put in manufacture. Again, the strength is immense, and I shall demonstrate that now. I have a piece of the material here, which would be a cover, it could be a bonnet of the car or whatever, and probably we could say that the vandal-proof car is with us, because take a look at this. Still in one piece, and no dent.
Well, it's all very well for us presenters to wander around the stands at the motor show and chatter away to you about the glossy new cars and their products, but of course we're not actually buying anything here, and the story of the motor show is the 750,000 visitors coming through the gates before the end of the show, and the things that they're actually going to buy on the stands. So to find out what an average family thinks about it, we've found Colin and Sue and Sarah and Emma, haven't we? What sort of car have you got at the moment?
I've got an 1800 Subaru, and my wife has a Polo.
So, do you both drive the car? I mean, do you share cars or swap cars around?
Depends what we're doing. If it's running the girls around, it's the Polo, and if we're going long distances, it's the Subaru.
Now, we saw you jumping in and out of the Peugeot 309. That's a British-built car. Did you like it?
Yes, I liked it very much. It was quite spacious, very comfortable. It would make a good family car.
What about the pricing?
That was quite reasonable, at £6,500. I thought that was very good.
The 309 I thought was super as a family car. A very economical family car, actually, as opposed to a second car, which is what I basically am looking at.
What about the level of trim? Did you find it comfortable?
It was comfortable, yes. The
Enough space in it?
They were spacious. There was leg room in the back, which is quite important with growing children. And the boot also is very spacious on it.
Now, I saw you also on the Vauxhall stand, and you looked at the Astra. Any impressions on that?
I thought that was quite enclosed. You seem to be sitting quite low down in the Astra, and wanting to peer up over the top all the time.
So the fascia was very high around you?
Yes, and you sank down in it when you got into the car.
Would that put you off the car?
I think it would, yes.
Sue, what did you think of the Astra?
I felt the same, actually. It was very enclosed and possibly slightly cluttered on the dash.
Because your Subaru and your Volkswagen pay a lot of attention having controls up near the steering wheel, don't they?
Yes, they do, yes.
Yes. And then the final car we saw you with was the Fiat. That was rather a sporty Strada. Is that your choice?
Yeah, well, if I hadn't have a family, I suppose I'd quite enjoy driving that one around. But very difficult for a family to get in and out of.
Yes, well, those sports seats really wrap around you, don't they?
Yes, they do.
But of course, there's a normal Strada with 3 and 5 doors. What about the general shape of the Strada? Taken with that?
I wasn't over impressed with it. I didn't like the stalks on the steering wheel very much. They seemed quite flimsy and hard to find behind the steering wheel.
And Sarah, you didn't look so you had a lot of headroom, a lot of leg room in a couple of the cars.
No, well, with me sitting behind my mum, she's got long legs and she has to seat further back, so...
So you have to suffer?
Yeah.
So, Sue, here we are in the Subaru Justy. Now, you're a Subaru owner. How does it compare to the car you normally drive?
As far as the Polo is concerned, it has about the same interior space, but I find the pedals much more comfortable to use.
Why is that?
Well, in the Polo, I have to lift my foot up to access the accelerator.
And that's desperate, isn't it? Because it makes your calf tremble after a while.
That's right, yes. But this, I can just rest my foot and operate the pedal quite easily.
Now, so in the middle of this gear stick, an ominous-looking red knob that says four-wheel drive. Is that something you'd think of having?
I hadn't considered it previously. Colin had mentioned that if we changed the Subaru, we might look at a four-wheel drive next time, but we haven't really given it serious consideration.
What sort of use do you think you might put it to? I mean, you thinking of going for picnics at the top of Ben Nevis or anything like that?
Well, not quite that, but as far as I'm concerned, country roads in the winter, snow and ice, it might be quite useful to cope with that.
Give you an added feeling of security?
Yes, I think so.
Well, Colin and Sue, thanks very much indeed for helping us. I'll let you get on round the motor show now.
For me, this is the glittering prize after a couple of days' work at the NEC. I have got this close to a Ferrari Testarossa and its trademark, these magnificent air inlets here on the side. Styled, of course, by Pininfarina, the independent, still largely family-owned design studio of Italy. And this is Andreas Pininfarina, who's the grandson of the founder. Your latest design work here, which we're going to look at, is quite unusual for you because it's actually been commissioned by an American motor manufacturer?
Yes. It's commissioned by Cadillac, and the name of the car is the Cadillac Alante. The car is partly built in Europe and partly in the United States. The body is painted and fully trimmed in Italy and then airflown to Detroit for the final assembly of powertrain and mechanical components.
Must be one of the longest production lines in the world, stretching from
It's
Italy
called
to...
the longest assembly line of the world, yes, and it is.
Why does an American manufacturer come to an Italian design studio?
The reason is mainly the target of the car, which is addressed to the so-called ultra-luxury segment of the US market, which is today with Mercedes, BMW and Jaguar mainly. Those cars are coming from Europe, and Cadillac felt the need of a European help, and specifically of our help in Pininfarina, because of our design and manufacturing capability.
Now you can look at this exhibition here in Birmingham through different eyes to us. You're a professional designer. There are many concept cars around here from all the different manufacturers. What is your honest opinion of what you've seen?
I think when we look at the concept car, we should remind a little bit of the history behind a concept car. In the past, the concept car has been the specialty of coach builder like we and Bertone and others, when there was more of a styling exercise with almost no, it was really, we were calling at that time the dream car. There were almost no contact with the reality. Today, looking at the Birmingham Auto Show, we have at least 4 or 5 concept cars which are no more the so-called dream car. Yes, they join some strange styling, new styling, with a lot of technical contents. We are talking about 4-wheel drive, twin turbo, 4-wheel steering, radar detection of the front obstacle. We are talking about the future from the technical point of view.
Of the ones you've seen, has there been anything you've liked or admired?
Of the one I saw, I think the most interesting I could remember are the Peugeot Proxima, where there are very interesting things like no more outside rearview mirror, but the camera and radar detection for the front obstacle. Very interesting, the Nissan QX with a 4-wheel drive, electronic control, and the 4-wheel steering capability with a 2-way of steering of the rear wheels at high and low speed. Very interesting also the Mazda MX-03, again with the 4-wheel drive and 4-wheel steering, and with a very, very enhanced design of the interior, very addressed to ergonomics.
Well, thank you very much indeed for your professional insight, Andreas.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
One of the stars of the show is a new Aston Martin. It's got all the features you'd expect from such a famous name. A 5-speed gearbox, sumptuous Connolly leather interior and Wilton carpets. But a top speed of only 40 miles an hour? Well, this is the Aston Junior, the car for the kid who's got everything. It's a perfect half-scale replica of another Aston model. It's got headlamps, it's got an 8-horsepower petrol engine, it's got even a radio with twin speakers. Of course, it's a replica of Aston Martin's latest model, and that's the Vantage Volante convertible. Now, they tell me this is the fastest 4-seater convertible in the world. It does 160 miles an hour, 0 to 60 in around 5.2 seconds, and it costs £80,000. It also weighs the thick end of 2 tons, and the bodywork has just collected a gold medal award at this year's show. And they tell me that a dad came on this stand today and looked at this car and said, yeah, all right, I like it, I'll have one. Oh, and by the way, chuck a Junior in as well. It's a lovely idea if you can do it, because the Junior costs £11,000.
Well, that just about completes our look at the 1986 British International Motor Show here in Birmingham. I think in summary I would say, who are they trying to sell their cars to here, the manufacturers? Because it doesn't appear to me that too many manufacturers are giving what I would call value for money these days, but at least you can dream.
Absolutely, and I think the nicest thing that I've seen the whole time I've been at the motor show was this morning. I saw a couple, a father and son. The lad was about 7, and his eyes widened, and he said, Dad, look, Ferrari! They went rushing off to look at a Ferrari. At the end of their dream, they sort of said, oh well, and went off to look at a Mini.
Well, you may well be coming here yourself to have a look over the next week. They're expecting 750,000 visitors here to the NEC. If you are coming, I would just say go to the loo first.
And make sure you wear comfy shoes. Bye-bye.